Welcome back to this week's theater episode of the Campfire Series podcast. I'm your host, Logan Soforenko. We hope everyone enjoyed yesterday's episode, but today we have an awesome interview with Morgan Kirner from the Hello Dolly Broadway National Tour. She shares about her time at the Boston Conservatory and what she's doing now since we've been in this pandemic for 11 months. She has a lot of free time. But also we chat about a very funny event that took place when she was in Los Angeles doing the show at the Pantages Theater. Let's get to it.
My name is Morgan Kirner. I'm originally from a little town called Galloway, New Jersey, right outside of Atlantic City. I went to college at the Boston Conservatory, where I graduated with my BFA in musical theater. And I've lived in New York City since the fall of 2016. A couple of my favorite credits include doing a new version of The Little Mermaid that started at the Paper Mill Playhouse, where I was to 2012. For anybody who's a big fan of the Jimmy Awards, I was the 2012 woohoo. Who isn't? They're amazing. I was the 2012 Rising Star Award at Paper Mill Playhouse, so it was very impactful for me for that to be my first equity job. And then that took me all over the country for a couple years. And then another favorite job of mine was playing Anne in a little night music at the Huntington Theater my senior year in college. And then I did a couple more in their Sondheim series. And then when I moved to the Big Apple, I did a few regional shows, and then eventually where we met when I was doing Hello Dolly in the end of 2018 through the end of 2019. So I was on the first year starring Betty Buckley. And now I'm back in the city, auditioning less for live things, but more so for, commercials, voiceovers, doing some on camera. My bread and butter is musical theater, and I definitely don't try to hide that. I've always loved musical theater. For as long as I can remember, the first show that I saw in the city, I was very fortunate that I'm from Jersey, love Jersey, but my parents would bring my sisters and I into the city to see shows. And the first show that I was supposed to see, my first Broadway show was supposed to be Beauty and the Beast, and there was a fire in the theater that day. Everybody was fine, but we weren't able to see the show, and so then we ended up seeing Footloose, and Footloose changed my life. I loved that show so much, and I memorized the cast album on our way home, and from then on, it stuck. And I do lots of things, though. I think that is something that I really like about my career, is because what people, especially being a student and coming to see a Broadway national tour, you probably think like, wow, like that, you made it, you did it, great job. And in a lot of ways, that is what it feels like. But there's so much work that goes into achieving these big, bright, shiny moments. You know what I mean? So I've done every day job that you can possibly imagine. I've sold yogurt. I've been a yogurt salesperson. I was a human vending machine one time. Ooh. That one's a good story. I'm a nanny. I do.
Do you ever work at a Trader Joe's?
No, you know what? I take it back. I haven't done everything. I haven't worked at Trader Joe's, but I would love to. I actually really.
I don't know why. That's just the first one that comes to mind in New York. Like everyone, I meet people that they worked at a Whole Foods or a grocery store, and I'm like, that'd be just a fun, weird, quirky day job to do while you're trying to do auditions and stuff.
Yeah, and you get a discount on groceries. So. Oh,
facts.
Gotta love that. But yeah, I've done a lot of very interesting things. No, Mom's not home right now. I'm doing a meeting. Sorry,
Oh, we love that. That's the beauty of home. I can't complain. I got my dog literally right next to me.
Oh, what kind of dog?
He's a Dachshund Lab mix.
I love that.
He's a little tiny black thing. But nevertheless, you said you went to the Jimmy Awards.
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
so you won the Rising Star is the regional for the Paper Mill Playhouse.
Yeah.
And then you represented the Paper Mill in New Jersey going to the Jimmys. So I haven't really talked. I've talked to a few Jimmy winners, a few of them, but I hear different experiences on every one, and especially this year, I heard that they announced they're doing them virtually. So
Yeah.
walk me through your week at the Jimmy Awards, and also uh, the experience that came with it. And nowadays, all my friends that went, they saw Dear Evan Hansen, but I assume when you went, it was a little bit different. So walk me through just a little bit about your week at the Jimmys.
Oh man, this is almost 10 years ago. So some of the details might be a little fuzzy, but I do.
Who won your year? I'm curious. Who was the best actor, if you remember?
Josh Grosso.
That's who I'm thinking of. I
Yeah,
talked to him too. That's cool.
yeah, he's really good. He's amazing. Um, was on the Les Mis tour. Uh, and let's see. And Elizabeth Ramiro won
That's
for
right.
girls. Yeah, my week was, I was really scared. I was really nervous.
Oh, I bet.
I think coming in from New Jersey, I thought that I had been to New York so many times, and I thought that that would bring me comfort, but it really didn't. I was so nervous to stay in a dorm because we stayed at the dorms at NYU at that time. I don't know if it's the same now, but I got there and everybody was seriously so loving. I'm actually still pretty good friends with a lot of the people that I met through that experience. Um, and my coach was Leslie Odom's Prince
What?
Hamilton, which is fierce.
So when he
Um,
this was Reverend Curtis days on SVU. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and he was as nice could be,
Good.
and so helpful. Everybody that we met, so we had such great coach. I think Liz Calloway was a coach that year. I think we just Christian Borle came in and talked to us, like just like amazing. Like now I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, some real heavy, like really incredible musical theater. Like careers came in, and just nice people too. I think that that was the most inspirational part about it for me. It was breaking down that barrier, and instead of being thinking I want to be like you, it was like, oh my gosh, like we're in the same room, and we're talking about the work that I'm doing too, and like that was a big step, I think. We ate a lot of Domino's pizza. I do remember that was amazing. I love that part.
Love Domino's.
I think that, and then throughout the week we had the coachings in the morning, and then we would have, what did we do in the afternoon? We would practice our medleys in the afternoon. So that was really fun. And then little by little we would piece them together, and then we would have group rehearsals where we would put together these the opening number and then the closing number, because this was because I am old. This was 10 years ago, so I think it has changed, and I think there are more group number opportunities now. But I remember Keisha being so like excited and alive in those rehearsals, and just feeling like, wow, like this must feel what it's like to be a professional. Like this must feel what it's like to be in a room where like everybody's focused and paying attention, and I was actually a part of it the year that they were also doing a documentary about it too. So on top of all of that, they had cameras, PBS had cameras in there, and they were taking people out and interviewing them about their experience, et cetera, et cetera. And then I remember the costume parade was so exciting. We all got into our costumes, and everybody was so excited to see each other in their makeup and whatnot. But the best experience was the morning they took us on a school bus from NYU to the Minskoff, which now, having lived in New York for 5 years, I realize is like maybe only about 30 blocks. But at the time, at the time, it felt like this maiden voyage. You know, it was dark. It was probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was videoing, pre-Instagram stories. That's all this is. And then we were waiting outside of the Minskoff stage door, and they let us in, and then they kind of let us free on this beautiful raked stage, and I remember just being so excited, just so incredibly excited and elated, and like, wow, we're standing on a Broadway stage. I didn't take my Laducas off all day long, and I couldn't walk by the end of the day, which was my own. That was my fault. I shouldn't have done that. Um, but it really was special, and all the members of the cast of The Lion King actually wrote us notes too, and like they put them to their dressing room doors, and they like were like, "Congratulations, kids! Happy Broadway debut!" And um, the competition itself felt kind of like fast and furious, and like they had warned us that it would be. I wasn't a finalist, and I remember being disappointed, but also super excited for my friends and all the girls. We were in the girls' bathroom because they had a speaker, and we were listening, and we are like, "Oh my gosh, she's doing so well! This is going so well." I was voted the Spirit of the Jimmy Awards, which made me feel really
nice.
happy, because that it felt like miscongeniality in a way, and I was like, oh, that made me feel really happy, and so I still have that in my room. And then after the awards, we went to John's, and I went with my parents, and we ate pizza, and then we went back to the dorms, and we felt like cool college kids. I hadn't graduated high school yet, or I had just graduated high school if I hadn't yet, and it was like, it was the best. It was the best.
A lot of pizza. That's so
much pizza. And that's the memory that sticks. So much pizza.
Well, what a week. And the finalist thing, I think just being part of it. I was in my regional one, and I wasn't a finalist, but it was just doing it was just so awesome, and you can't think too much about it, and just being a part of it, you took away what you learned, and it was.
That's all you can do with these sorts of things, and I think I was so. I met so many people too that I think intentionally kept up a connection for years to come, because when you graduate college, it can be really daunting to go into huge auditions and to know that those connections stayed. Like somebody was like, "Oh, I remember I saw you here." That makes a world of difference as far as feeling a little bit more at home in a place that can feel so large sometimes. So I was incredibly blessed to be a part of it.
Speaking of auditions, everyone loves a good audition story. Walk us through yours for Hello, Dolly.
Okay. This is a good one.
We'll talk about the cast after, because that cast just blew me away. I saw Nick in Book of Mormon. I never saw Jess in Newsies, and then I was introduced to you guys. And, of course, Betty Buckley, big name. My mom knows a lot about her because, a little more of her time. And, me being almost 20, I'm like, okay, I don't know her. I'm not familiar as well. But I'm like, oh, Cats, that's right. But walk me through your audition process. I assume that because that was such a big hit on Broadway, the 2018 or 2017 revival. Walk me through it.
My audition experience was very fun and fast, actually, for Hello, Dolly. I remember I got an audition for it right before a weekend. And for Christmas that year, my mom had given me TKTS TKTS gift cards. And so
they have those? That's awesome.
They do.
That's really cool.
They're great. They're the best. And I can't wait till I still have some from last year that I didn't get to use. So I can't wait to go back and use them. And so I had one day off in May, and my boyfriend and I at the time, I was like, I have no idea how to do these sides. Let's go and see Hello, Dolly. I have these tickets. Like, let's make a day of it. So we had it was the most fun day. We went to the beach, and then we went to go see Hello, Dolly. And I was like, okay, that's what this crying is about. That's what this is. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to this audition. And so my audition was on a Wednesday. And then I did the audition, and I felt really good about it. And I sat out in Times Square, and I think I bought myself like a snack from Starbucks. And
Pizza.
You know how they have those chairs out there in Times Square?
Yeah.
In the middle of everything.
I was waiting for you to say pizza. I thought that.
No, I know.
thought that's where you were going.
I eat a lot of pizza, so it's not that far off. So I sat there, and I was like, okay, that felt really good. And then the next day, I got a call back um, and some notes. And then my callback was for that Friday, so it was not there was not that much time between it, I think. And I only had 2 auditions, and so I had to go to the dance audition. And so there's a group of Ermengardes and Ambroses, and then there was a group of ensemble women and ensemble men, and we all went in and we learned the polka. And I happened to know a lot of the girls that I was auditioning with, so it was super fun because we're all kind of short, and I'm 5 feet tall, and so we go in for a lot of the same things, and so we all helped each other. We learned the dance and we practiced, and then we went back in after about an hour, and did the audition, and we went one by one, and they filmed us, and I was the last one to go, and we get up to the part, and I was like ready to do it, and we get to the like dun 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 dun, and so I like really went for it, and like big arms, big legs, and we got through that part of the dance, and then the rest of it just flew right out of my mind. And I remember saying to, like, I was not frozen. Somehow my feet kept moving, and I was like, oh no, I forgot the dance. And beautiful Sarah stood up, and she's like, it's okay. And then she got up and she did the rest of the dance with me. And I just, after that, I was like, oh, well, it was fun while it lasted, And so then we all left the room, and then they made a cut, and they didn't cut me, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, cool, okay. And so I went back in and I sang my part in Sunday Clothes, and then I did my sides, which is like the first I did the first scene with all the screaming, and I got some notes, and then I did it again. And then I was the following week, I think it was a Tuesday, I was working. I was handing out apple cider vinegar samples at the Whole Foods in Harlem because I was working as a a brand ambassador is the name of that. I was working as a brand ambassador for a company that sold apple cider vinegar, and I saw that I was getting a call from my agent on my phone, but I couldn't be on my phone, and so I was like, oh my gosh, it can't be, it couldn't possibly be. And I excused myself, and I called them back, and they were like, it was my agent and my manager, and so it was a bunch of people on this conference call, and they're like, you booked it! And I'm like in Whole Foods, like covered in apple cider vinegar, like I'm so excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great story, and the team couldn't have been nicer to me, so I was very fortunate. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. It's always the weirdest spots you find out you booked, and I don't think it gets any better than apple cider vinegar, which I hear some people use that for their singing voices. I've heard about it, but I gave it a shot, and I was like, you know what? I'm underage. I don't drink, but I'm like, this tastes literally like hard alcohol because it's just so strong.
Really a strong flavor. The idea behind this, I think this was apple cider vinegar shots, so it was like more for like your digestive health.
Right.
But yeah. I'm like, I don't really remember a whole lot about it because the whole moment was over. Like,
I got booked.
Every time, actually, I still shop at that Whole Foods, and so every time I go in, oh yeah, that's that spot. It's a nice spot.
My gosh. Well, that's good though. It's your spot. But with that being said, now that you're in the show and with this awesome cast, tell me a little bit about this cast. And then there's this one specific moment I want to talk to you about. I want to see if you remember it. But I want to see if it was in LA, and I just want to see if you're connecting with it. You probably aren't because I'm being very broad about it. But I'll just say right now, there's a moment where, oh God, what was it? I think in Betty's hair, something wasn't coming off, and complete like breaking character for about 5.5, maybe 7 minutes, and she was just going on, and it was with Jess and Nick, and everybody was on this, like, it was like I can't remember what scene it was in. I think it was in like the dress parlor or something. I don't remember, but there was
I
a moment where it was just, and it wasn't it wasn't bad at all. The audience was loving it, and it was just perfect. And I think Nick went in to try and like fix it, but he just started laughing, and it was just an amazing moment. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do remember that because it was in the hat shop scene, right?
Yes,
Right
yes.
before dancing.
Sorry, it's been, I can't even think beyond COVID at this, or past COVID at
No,
this
it
point.
feels like a whole several years have happened and also no time has passed at all. Isn't that an interesting paradox?
I like that though. I like
But
that
yes,
analogy.
I actually do remember that because I remember being backstage and hearing howling laughter. But it's funny you asked about the cast because um, I was I was very intimidated at first
Hmm.
because I didn't feel like I mean I don't have any I still don't have any Broadway credits at this point in my career, and I was walking into a room with uh, all the other leads who have Broadway credits, several very very good Broadway credits too, um, and they seriously could not have been kinder to me, and they could not
Good.
have made me feel more seen and at home. A specific, I would say, Nick is so wonderful, and Jess and I were both from Jersey, and so we bonded over that. Annalisa is in gave me voice lessons throughout the tour. Kristen Hahn is like the kindest person, and we shared a car frequently, and we would all actually do things together. We had a lot of like events. That's what one thing I didn't know about going on tour is like there's so many opportunities for like bonding in different places. We had one day out in California where we went wine tasting. We had a day in Kentucky where we went uh, zip lining in a cave. Like we, you know, it. There's so that there's so many treasures in different cities and food. Oh my gosh, food too. I like not just pizza, but food. Like we go out for dinner and go out for brunch before shows, and it was special. And it wasn't just within the leads too. It was the ensemble was a beautiful bunch of people, and I made my some of my very best friends from that tour actually.
Well, good for you. That the tour life itself just sounds, you know, I don't want to say miraculous because sometimes it can be a little tiring. I assume, but definitely it
Both
has
can be
its.
true. Both can be true. Miraculous and tiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that being said, there's just so many cities you guys go to, and I think the best thing about touring is you get to go to these towns that don't typically have these big, or not these big Broadway houses, but they don't expect a lot of theater. They don't have 5 theaters where tourists come in. They have one like Kansas City has the Starlight Theater, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
I performed there.
What were your favorite cities?
My favorite city was Washington D.C. I loved performing at the Kennedy Center.
Okay,
Loved being
wow.
in the summer. I loved the crew that worked at the Kennedy Center. I loved meeting people in DC. I loved, oh man, I could go on and on. I loved going, all the museums are free there, so I would go to museums during the day. Um, the scooters were cool. I didn't ride on them because I don't mix well with wheels. But
Uh,
I liked watching other people do them.
I need an explanation. You don't mix well with wheels. What is
Oh,
this?
I'm
Like, is
very
this
clumsy. I'm very
bad luck on bicycles, skateboards, and scooters? All that stuff?
all of it. All of it. I avoid it at all costs.
What about cars?
I prefer to be the passenger.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's why I live in New
It's the
York.
beauty of New York.
No, I'll drive if I have to. I'll drive if I have to. Just very, very, very slowly. Yeah. Um, I love Chicago. We were there for a month, and we performed at it's the Ford Theater, and now it's renamed the Nederlander, but it was originally the Oriental Theater, and it was renamed the Nederlander Theater. And It's haunted. It's super
Oh.
spooky haunted. And I shared a dressing room with my friend Jessica Sheridan, and she and I swore that like we would just be sitting in our dressing room, and the bathroom mirror would shake, and the heat would like start popping off, and the doors would shake, and we were like, it's just our ghost, it's just hanging out.
Yeah, it's just hanging.
But basically, I think, but that theater, there was a huge fire back in the day, like, and we read, and all of the people that worked there, I loved the backstage crew there too. And so, if you ever asked about it, they had all of this really cool information. So when you tour through Chicago, make sure to ask. Chicago, I loved Greenville, South Carolina. The biscuits in that city.
Mm.
Wow. Holy moly. Oh my gosh. I could go on and on about the biscuits. Yeah, so Greenville, San Diego, I loved. I had a really good time in San Diego, especially because my family came and visited me out there. Los Angeles, the Pantages, actually was one of my favorite places to be. I I learned how to embroider.
Oh,
LA, fun fact, my dresser taught me how to do embroidery. So I
it's a
love
cool.
her.
It's a cool little hobby.
Yeah, it is. I'm not super good at it, but it was wonderful. I had like a half hour break at one point, and so I would just sit back there and like do like little embroidery. Um, what was my other favorite city? Yeah, I think that those are my top five. Oh, Denver, Colorado. Yeah, ooh, loved that city. Loved it.
Now, when you mentioned Chicago and Casper, I couldn't help, or not Casper, I couldn't help to think your door comes open a little bit, and you're like, oh, Casper, welcome aboard. But
Yeah.
but with that being said, you had so many memories and so many awesome hobbies you picked up. So congratulations on that, and good lord, I hope that you can go somewhere with, you mentioned going into I think you said like voice acting or whatever it was at the beginning. You said you're trying different stuff out. I think that is just absolutely perfect, not just for an actor but for you specifically, because you just have that character that could go either or. And like you said, work all the day jobs, you gotta do it all. But with that being said, what's some advice you can give to young performers? I know
Um,
COVID is just so weird, and right now it's hope. I think we're seeing the light. Something rotten quote. I think we are. But with that being said, what's some advice you can just give to anybody right now? College students, high school students, 6 year olds. About this business, because you went to school for theater. You're surrounded by the competitive nature. How do you not let that get in the way?
that is such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked because I have recently uh, decided I want to go back to school so I can teach at a collegiate level, because you're right. I think that sometimes, and I am like was my experience, but also like I was a part of it as well. But BFA and competitive BA programs in theater can feel that way. They can feel really competitive, and we tend to lose sight of why we started in the first place. And what the piece of advice that I think I would give to anybody who's starting out on their career as an artist is be kind to the people around you. They're your teammates. And just because somebody is shining, it doesn't dull your shine. We're all inherently worthy. We all have an inherent ability to do something different. And yours and my interpretation of whatever song it might be is going to be different no matter what, because we are inherently different people. And so, speaking to the competitiveness of that, but also the other thing I would say, and it took me a really long time to get to this realization as well, like as an adult, and I'm still working on it, is that we are constantly growing. No, you graduate big programs and you go into these big auditions after a showcase and you're like, this is it. And then sometimes what you expect to happen doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean that you've failed. It just means that that experience will lead you somewhere else, and you can choose to take that experience and learn something from it, and then allow it to take you somewhere else. And then also, I would say, make sure to find a little bit of practical advice. Make sure to find a day job that allows you the flexibility to go to auditions. It can be that is one of the most difficult things that I struggled with when I first moved to New York City, was avoiding burnout when trying to audition and also pay rent and afford groceries and have a social life and all of these wonderful things that come with living in New York City. So find a place that cares about you as a person, and if it also happens to scratch your creative itch, at the same time, I think that is like a huge bonus. Yeah.
I don't think that could have been said any better. You said if something doesn't go your way, you can either take what you learned from, that not happening and go somewhere else, or just find the path that just naturally you're supposed to be in, or you could be rigid and be, no, this needs to happen. I have a timeline. This has to happen by age 22 so I can be yada yada at 24. Like that's I think especially in COVID right now, we're realizing that timelines should not exist. I mean, sure, it's good to have long-term goals, but short-term but if you set too many you say you gotta have long-term goals, but you gotta have short-term goals, but you can't have too many short-terms, or else you're gonna drive yourself crazy. You know what I mean?
It's that idea of allowing yourself to breathe. I
Exactly.
love goal setting. I love the planners. I love the
We
manifesting.
love the planners.
Check your planner out. I love that. Mine's downstairs. But I think I this idea that we are a product and that we're only as good as the last thing we did, or we're only as good as what we can produce, or we are our career. I think that ultimately doesn't end up helping us as human beings or in the audition room, because I've experienced it from both sides, like, being green and walking into an audition room and having that energy of like, gosh, I need this, and feeling, and I think that the people on the other side of the table can kind of feel that, um, yeah, yeah. I think that allowing ourselves to be balanced and enjoying other parts of our lives, like our friends and our families and our other hobbies, only make you that much of a better actor. They only make you better, because what are we doing? We're telling stories about real people. People want to see real people. And I definitely learned that the hard way. I have, because again, I'm a big musical theater nerd. And so, and so I definitely learned that the hard way. Yeah.